The arrival of the swarm. The vast expanse of space had never seemed so ominous. Captain Alina Reeves stood at the helm of the UES Thunderbolt, her eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. The swirling mass of red dots approaching their position sent a chill down her spine. Humanity had faced many challenges since venturing into the stars, but nothing like this. "Status report," she barked, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. Lieutenant Commander Zara Chen's fingers danced across her console. "The swarm's approach vector remains unchanged, Captain. ETA to Saturn's orbit, 47 minutes. Elena nodded, her mind racing through their limited options. Humanity had spread throughout the solar system, establishing colonies on Mars, the Moon, and several of Jupiter's and Saturn's moons. But now, all of that was threatened by an enemy unlike any they had faced before. The swarm, as they had come to be known, was a relentless tide of biomechanical entities. First detected by long-range sensors 6 months ago, they had carved a path of destruction through several alien civilizations on their way to Sol. Diplomacy had failed. The swarm seemed interested only in consumption and propagation. "Open a channel to Admiral Kosh," Elena ordered. Moments later, the grizzled face of humanity's supreme military commander appeared on the main screen. "Captain Reeves," the Admiral acknowledged, his voice grave. "I trust you're aware of the situation." "Yes, sir. The Thunderbolt stands ready to defend Saturn's orbit." Admiral Kosh's expression softened slightly. "Elena, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. We're facing an enemy of unprecedented scale. The combined fleets of Earth, Mars, and the Jovian Confederation are en route, but they won't arrive for another 3 hours. You're our first line of defense." Elena straightened her posture. "We won't let you down, sir." "I know you won't, but there's something else you should know." The Admiral paused, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Project Olympus has been activated." Elena's eyes widened. Project Olympus had been nothing but a rumor, a whisper of some ultimate weapon that had been in development for years. "Sir, is it operational?" "It will be, by the time the main fleet arrives. Your job is to hold the line until then. Buy us time, Captain, whatever it takes." As the transmission ended, Elena turned to her crew. She saw determination in their eyes, mixed with fear. They all knew what was at stake. "All right, people, you heard the Admiral. We're humanity's vanguard against this threat. Lieutenant Chen, initiate battle stations. Commander Rodriguez, I want our kinetic barriers at maximum capacity. Weapons Officer Taylor, arm all railguns and prepare missile tubes." As her crew sprang into action, Elena's mind raced through tactical scenarios. The Thunderbolt was a state-of-the-art destroyer, equipped with the latest in human military technology. But against the countless entities of the swarm, would it be enough? The next hour was a flurry of activity as the ship prepared for battle. Elena received updates from the other ships in her small defensive fleet, 3 frigates and another destroyer. It wasn't much, but it was all that could be spared on short notice. As the swarm entered visual range, Elena felt her breath catch in her throat. The enemy ships, if they could be called that, were a horrifying fusion of organic and mechanical parts. They moved with an eerie synchronization, like a school of predatory fish. "Tactical analysis," Elena commanded. Lieutenant Chen's voice was tight as she responded. "The swarm appears to consist of 3 main types of entities, Captain. Smaller fighter-sized units make up the bulk of their forces. Medium-sized carrier units seem to be launching the smaller ones, and there are several larger capital ships. Biosignatures suggest they might be controlling the others." Elena nodded, her mind already formulating a strategy. "Focus our fire on the carrier units. If we can disrupt their ability to launch more fighters, we might stand a chance of thinning their numbers." As she gave the order to engage, Elena couldn't help but think of Earth, of her family back home. She had joined the United Earth Space Force to protect them, to secure humanity's future among the stars. Now that future hung by a thread. The space around Saturn's rings erupted in a dazzling display of weapons fire. Railgun slugs accelerated to fantastic speeds, tearing through the organic hulls of swarm fighters. Missiles left glowing trails as they saw out their targets, detonating in brilliant flashes against the larger carrier units. A heavy heart, Alina made a decision. Helm, set course for Titan. We need to buy those colonists time to evacuate. But for every swarm ship they destroyed, it seemed two more took its place. The smaller fighters swarmed around Earth's ships, their strange bioplasma weapons eating away at kinetic barriers. Shields down to 60%, Commander Rodriguez reported, his voice strained. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. Emergency teams responding. Alina gritted her teeth. They were inflicting damage, but not enough. Not nearly enough. Concentrate fire on Sector 3 Alpha. I want those carriers taken out. As the battle raged on, Alina received frantic communications from the colonies on Titan and Enceladus. The swarm was breaking through, heading for Saturn's moons. With a heavy heart, Alina made a decision. Helm, set course for Titan. We need to buy those colonists time to evacuate. The Thunderbolt broke away from the main engagement, its engines flaring as it raced to intercept the swarm forces threatening the colony. Alina knew it might be a one-way trip, but she couldn't abandon those civilians. As they approached Titan, the ship shuddered under a barrage of enemy fire. Shields critical. Rodriguez shouted, "We can't take much more of this." Alina's mind raced. They needed something, anything to turn the tide. And then, as if in answer to her silent prayer, a transmission cut through the chaos. This is General Yara Blackburn of Project Olympus to all Earth forces. Reinforcements have arrived. Stand by for fire support. Alina's tactical display lit up with new signatures, hundreds of them. But one dwarfed all the others. A massive station, easily the size of a small moon, moved into position near Saturn. What in the world? Alina breathed, watching in awe as the station's structure began to shift and change. General Blackburn's voice came through again, a note of grim satisfaction evident. "Attention, swarm forces. You've threatened our home, our people. Now let us show you how humanity responds to threats." Initiating main weapon sequence. The station's reconfiguration completed, revealing what could only be described as a colossal space-borne Gatling gun. Its multiple barrels began to spin, building up speed until they were nothing but a blur. And then it fired. The space around Saturn lit up brighter than a supernova as streams of hyper-accelerated projectiles tore into the swarm fleet. Each round, the size of a small spacecraft, carried enough kinetic energy to shatter a moon. The effect on the swarm was catastrophic. Entire sections of their fleet simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the onslaught. The larger ships, seemingly indestructible before, were torn apart like tissue paper. Alina and her crew watched in stunned silence as humanity's ultimate weapon turned the tide of battle in a matter of minutes. The remaining Earth ships rallied, pushing forward against the now disorganized swarm. As the last of the enemy ships were mopped up, Alina slumped in her chair, exhaustion and relief washing over her in equal measure. They had done it. Humanity had faced its greatest threat and emerged victorious. But as she looked out at the debris field that now orbited Saturn, Alina knew this was only the beginning. The swarm had been defeated here, but there would be more out there. And now, the galaxy knew that humanity was not to be trifled with. Humanity had not just survived. It had sent a message to the stars. Any who would threaten Earth and her colonies would face the full, terrifying ingenuity of the human race. They had taken an ancient concept, the Gatling gun, and elevated it to an art form of galactic destruction. As Alina prepared to dock the battered Thunderbolt with the Olympus station, she allowed herself a small smile. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew now that humanity was ready to face them. They had the will, the courage, and now, the firepower to secure their place among the stars. The swarm had made a grave miscalculation in targeting humanity. They had assumed humans would be easy prey. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, one armed with the most devastating weapons in the galaxy. And this was just the beginning. The Gatling solution. General Yara Blackburn stood in the cavernous control center of the Olympus station, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the solar system. The remnants of the swarm fleet were being systematically eliminated by Earth's resurgent forces. A sense of pride swelled in her chest, tempered by the knowledge that this was just the opening salvo in what promised to be a long war. "Status report," she barked, turning to her second-in-command, Colonel Dmitry Volkov. Dmitry's fingers danced across his console. "The last of the swarm ships have been neutralized, General. We're receiving damage reports from our fleet and the outer colonies. Casualties are significant, but far less than projected thanks to Olympus." Yara nodded grimly. The price of victory had been high, but it could have been so much worse. Her mind drifted back to the years of work that had led to this moment, the countless obstacles they had overcome to make Project Olympus a reality. It had begun 5 years ago, when long-range probes first detected the swarm's destructive path through a neighboring galaxy. Earth's governments, for once united by a common threat, had poured resources into developing a weapon capable of meeting this unprecedented danger. The concept had been simple in theory. Take the basic principle of the Gatling gun and scale it up to unimaginable proportions. But the engineering challenges had been staggering. How do you create a rotating barrel assembly the size of a small moon? How do you generate enough power to accelerate projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed? Yara allowed herself a small smile as she remembered the breakthrough that had made it all possible. It had come from an unlikely source. Dr. Ava Patel, a theoretical physicist who had been working on manipulating the fabric of space-time itself. "General," a voice cut through her reverie. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Kosh." Yara straightened her uniform. "Put him through." The grizzled face of humanity's supreme military commander appeared on the main screen. "General Blackburn," he began, his tone a mix of relief and concern. "Congratulations on the successful deployment of Olympus. You've given us a fighting chance." "Thank you, sir," Yara replied. "But I sense there's more." Admiral Kosh's expression darkened. "Indeed. Our long-range sensors have detected more swarm fleets entering the Orc cloud. This was just the vanguard, Yara. The main invasion is yet to come." A hush fell over the control center as the implications sank in. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. "How long do we have?" Yara asked, her mind already racing through scenarios. "Best estimates give us 3 months before they reach the inner solar system," Kosh replied. "We need to be ready." The Olympus station proved its worth today, but one weapon, no matter how powerful, won't be enough to defend our entire system. Yara nodded, a plan already forming in her mind. "Sir, with your permission, I'd like to implement Phase 2 of Project Olympus." Kosh raised an eyebrow. "Phase 2? I wasn't aware there was a Phase 2. "It was a contingency plan, sir," Yara explained. "We always knew one station might not be enough. Phase 2 involves creating a network of smaller, more mobile Gatling platforms throughout the solar system. They won't have the raw power of Olympus, but they'll provide a flexible defense grid that can respond quickly to threats." The Admiral stroked his chin thoughtfully. "It's ambitious, Yara. Do we have the resources for this? We'll need to requisition every shipyard from here to Mars, and we'll have to reverse engineer some of the swarm tech we've captured to boost our production capabilities," Yara admitted. "But sir, I don't think we have a choice. The swarm will adapt to Olympus. We need to stay one step ahead." After a moment of contemplation, Kosh nodded. "Do it. You'll have whatever you need. Just get it done." As the transmission ended, Yara turned to her team. "All right, people. We've got 3 months to turn our solar system into the most heavily armed sector of space in the galaxy. Let's get to work. The next weeks were a blur of activity. Yara split her time between overseeing the construction of the new Gatling platforms and working with Dr. Puddle to refine the space-time manipulation technology that made Olympus possible. 1 month into the project, Yara found herself in a heated debate with Dr. Puddle in one of Olympus's research labs. "It's not just about making them smaller, Yara," Ava insisted, her holographic model spinning in the air between them. "We need to make them smarter. The swarm will adapt to static defenses. We need these platforms to think, to predict, to outmaneuver." Yara frowned. "You're talking about AI. That's a red line for a lot of people, Ava." After the Tokyo incident. "I know," Ava cut in. "But we're not talking about giving an AI control of our entire defense network. Each platform would have a limited, specialized intelligence, and there would always be human oversight." The general paced the length of the lab, weighing the risks against the potential benefits. Finally, she turned back to Ava. "Okay, do it, but keep it compartmentalized. If there's even a hint of these AIs exceeding their parameters, we shut it down." "Understood." Ava nodded, a mix of excitement and trepidation in her eyes. "Understood, General. We won't let you down." As the deadline approached, the solar system became a hive of activity. The shipyards of Mars worked around the clock, churning out Gatling platforms at an unprecedented rate. Asteroids were hollowed out and turned into mobile fortresses. Jupiter's moons became staging grounds for fleet maneuvers. 2 weeks before the estimated arrival of the swarm, Yara stood on the observation deck of Olympus, looking out at the web of defenses they had created. Dozens of smaller Gatling stations hung in space, their barrels gleaming in the distant sunlight. Swarms of fighter squadrons darted between them in complex patterns, running endless drills. Colonel Volkov joined her at the window. "It's an impressive sight," he said quietly. Yara nodded. "But will it be enough?" Before Dmitri could respond, an alarm blared through the station. They rushed to the control center, where a flurry of activity greeted them. "Report," Yara barked. A young lieutenant looked up from her console, her face pale. "General, we're detecting massive spatial distortions at the edge of the system. It's not like anything we've seen before." Yara's blood ran cold. "The swarm?" "I don't think so, ma'am," the lieutenant replied. "The energy signatures are all wrong. This is something else." As they watched, the fabric of space itself seemed to tear open. Through the rift emerged ships of a design unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. They were beautiful and terrible, their hulls shimmering with colors that hurt to look at directly. Transmission cut through all channels, in perfect, accentless English. "People of Earth, we are the Concordiate. We have observed your battle against the swarm, and we are impressed. You face an enemy that has laid waste to countless civilizations, but you are not alone. We offer our alliance, our technology, and our wisdom in the fight to come." Yara exchanged a look with Dmitri. The galaxy, it seemed, was a far stranger and more wonderful place than they had imagined. And humanity, with its crazy, oversized Gatling guns, had just been thrust onto a much larger stage. As she prepared to respond to the Concordiate's message, Yara couldn't help but smile. Whatever came next, she knew one thing for certain: humanity was ready. They had taken an old idea and turned it into something that had changed the course of galactic history. The swarm was coming, yes, but now they would face not just the ingenuity and determination of humanity, but the combined might of an interstellar alliance. And at the heart of that alliance would be the weapon that had started it all. A gun that traced its lineage back to the American Civil War, now scaled up to defend not just a nation, but entire worlds. The Gatling gun had come a long way, and so had humanity. Together, they were about to make history on a cosmic scale. The battle begins. The solar system buzzed with anticipation and dread. In the 2 weeks since the arrival of the Concordiate, humanity had undergone a crash course in galactic politics and advanced alien technology. The knowledge that Earth wasn't alone in its fight against the swarm brought both relief and new anxieties. Admiral Alina Reeves, newly promoted after her heroic actions in the first swarm encounter, stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderbolt. The ship, like much of Earth's fleet, had been upgraded with Concordia tech. Sleek, organic-looking modules seamlessly integrated with human engineering, a visual representation of the alliance that now stood against the cosmic threat. Status report. Alina commanded, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the outer edges of the solar system. Lieutenant Commander Chen, her loyal officer from the previous battle, responded promptly. All systems nominal, Admiral. The Gatling network is fully operational, and the Concordiate fleet is in position. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Alina nodded, a grim smile on her face. Let's hope it's enough. The wait was agonizing. Hours stretched into days as the combined human and Concordiate forces stood vigilant. And then, finally, it happened. Multiple spatial distortions detected. Chen called out, her voice tight with tension. Swarm signatures confirmed. They're everywhere. The holographic display erupted with red dots as swarm ships poured into the solar system from all directions. It wasn't a fleet, it was an infestation. Battle stations. Alina barked. All ships, assume defensive formations. Initiate Gatling network. Across the solar system, humanity's new defense grid sprang to life. The smaller Gatling platforms, each guided by its specialized eye, began to spin up their massive barrels. On Earth, in hardened bunkers deep beneath the surface, teams of human operators monitored the eyes, ready to intervene if necessary. The space around the outer planets lit up as the first salvo was fired. Streams of hyper-accelerated projectiles tore into the advancing swarm, each shot guided with inhuman precision by the platform eyes. Entire squadrons of swarm fighters were vaporized in an instant. But the swarm had adapted. Many of the larger ships now sported strange, shimmering fields that deflected or absorbed the Gatling fire. They pushed forward relentlessly, launching waves of smaller craft toward the inner planets. They've developed some kind of energy shielding, Alina muttered. Chen, contact General Blackburn on Olympus. We need to adjust our strategy. As Chen relayed the message, Alina watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and horror. The Concordiate ships moved with impossible grace, their weapons firing beams of what looked like liquid light. Where they hit, swarm ships simply ceased to exist, leaving behind only rapidly dissipating energy patterns. But for every swarm ship destroyed, it seemed two more took its place. The sheer numbers were overwhelming. Admiral, Chen called out. Incoming transmission from Olympus. General Blackburn's face appeared on the main screen, her expression tense but determined. Admiral Reeves, we've analyzed the swarm's new defenses. Dr. Patel thinks she has a solution, but it's risky. We need to reconfigure the Gatling network on the fly. Alina's eyes widened. Reconfigure? In the middle of battle? Is that even possible? With the Concordiate's help, yes, Blackburn replied. We're going to use their quantum entanglement technology to link all the platforms. Then we'll fire in synchronized patterns, creating interference waves that should disrupt their shields. It was a crazy plan, but then again, everything about this war had been crazy from the start. Alina nodded. Do it. We'll provide cover while you make the adjustments. As the transmission ended, Alina turned to her crew. All right, people. We need to buy time. All ships, concentrate fire on the smaller swarm units. Draw them away from the Gatling platforms. The next hour was chaos. Alina's fleet darted between swarms of enemy fighters, their weapons blazing. The Concordiate ships moved in perfect coordination with their human allies, their advanced technology allowing them to predict and counter the swarm's movements with uncanny accuracy. But the tide of battle was turning against them. More and more swarm ships were breaking through, pushing towards the inner planets. A Concordiate cruiser near Jupiter exploded in a dazzling display of multidimensional energy, taking out a significant portion of the swarm fleet with it, but leaving a gap in their defenses. "Admiral," Chen's voice was urgent, "we're detecting a massive energy buildup from Olympus." Alina's eyes snapped to the tactical display. The Gatling platforms across the system had stopped firing. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. And then, it happened. Every Gatling platform in the system fired simultaneously. But instead of their usual straight trajectories, the projectiles moved in complex, interwoven patterns. Where they intersected, they created shimmering fields of energy that expanded outward in waves. The effect on the swarm was catastrophic. Their energy shields flickered and failed as the interference waves washed over them. Ships that had seemed invulnerable moments before were suddenly torn apart by the renewed Gatling fire. "It's working," Chen exclaimed, a note of hope in her voice for the first time since the battle began. Alina allowed herself a small smile. "Press the advantage. All ships target the larger swarm vessels while their shields are down." The combined Earth and Concordiate fleet surged forward, their weapons tearing into the now vulnerable swarm ships. The massive Olympus station, the original Gatling platform that had turned the tide in the first battle, fired its main weapon. The beam of hyper-accelerated matter cut through the heart of the swarm fleet like a hot knife through butter. For a moment, it seemed like victory was within grasp. But then, something changed. The remaining swarm ships began to move with a new purpose, converging on a single point. "What are they doing?" Alina muttered, leaning forward to study the tactical display. As they watched, the swarm ships began to merge, their biomechanical forms melding together into something new, something terrifying. A massive structure was taking shape, easily dwarfing even the Olympus station. A chill ran down Alina's spine as she realized what they were seeing. This wasn't just a defensive measure. It was the swarm's ultimate weapon, the ace up their sleeve. "All ships, fall back," she ordered. "Regroup around Mars orbit. We need tow." Her words were cut off as the newly formed swarm superstructure fired. A beam of sickly green energy lanced out, cutting through space itself. Where it passed, reality seemed to warp and twist. One of the Gatling platforms caught in the beam simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized, but erased from existence, as if it had never been there at all. As the beam continued its path of destruction, heading straight for Mars, Alina realized with growing horror that this battle was far from over. The swarm had revealed its true power, and the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy hung in the balance. The Gatling gun, humanity's greatest weapon, had met its match. But Alina knew that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its firepower, but its ability to adapt, to think on its feet, to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. As she prepared to coordinate a desperate counterattack, Alina couldn't help but think that the next few hours would determine the course of galactic history, and humanity, standing shoulder to shoulder with their new alien allies, would be at the center of it all. The battle for Earth, for the very future of life in the galaxy, had truly begun. Turning the tide. The green beam of otherworldly energy from the swarm's superstructure tore through space, leaving a wake of distorted reality. As it approached Mars, billions of eyes across the solar system watched in horror, expecting to see the red planet erased from existence. But in that moment of despair, humanity's ingenuity shone brightest. A shimmering field of blue energy suddenly sprang to life around Mars, enveloping the planet in a protective cocoon. The swarm's destructive beam struck the field and scattered, its energy dissipating harmlessly into space. On the bridge of the UES Thunderbolt, Admiral Alina Reeves stared in disbelief. What just happened? Her question was answered as a transmission cut through the chaos, and the face of Dr. Ava Patel appeared on the main screen. The physicist's eyes were bright with a mix of exhaustion and triumph. "It worked," Ava exclaimed. "The planetary shield is holding." Alina's mind raced to catch up. planetary shield. How is that possible? We've been working on it in secret, Ava explained quickly, using the Concordia's quantum entanglement tech and our own research into space-time manipulation. We didn't know if it would work, but she gestured at the image of Mars, still safely ensconced in its blue barrier. A spark of hope ignited in Alina's chest. They had a defense against the swarm's ultimate weapon. But hope alone wouldn't win this war. Dr. Patel, can we replicate this shield around other planets? Around our ships? Ava's expression turned grim. Not quickly, I'm afraid. The energy requirements are enormous. We had to tap into the core of Mars itself to power this shield. We might be able to protect Earth, but it would take time we don't have. Elena nodded, her tactical mind already formulating a plan. Then we need to take the fight to them. Lieutenant Chen, contact General Blackburn and the Concordiate fleet. We're going on the offensive. As Chen relayed the orders, Elena watched the massive swarm superstructure on the tactical display. It was preparing to fire again, this time aimed at the heart of the human fleet. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Elena barked. Concordiate vessels, we need cover. The combined fleet scattered as the green beam lanced out again. This time, the Concordiate ships moved into position, their advanced shields absorbing some of the beam's energy. But even their technology wasn't enough to fully negate the attack. 3 Concordiate cruisers vanished from existence, along with a dozen Earth vessels. We can't keep this up, Elena muttered. Then, an idea struck her. Chen, get me a direct line to Olympus. I need to speak with the AI controlling the Gatling network. Moments later, a synthesized voice filled the bridge. Admiral Reeves, how may I assist? We need to take out that swarm superstructure, Elena said. Can you calculate a firing solution that would hit it from multiple angles simultaneously, like we did with their shields earlier? There was a pause as the AI processed the request. Affirmative. But the energy required would deplete our reserves. We would be defenseless after the attack. Elena took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would decide the fate of the battle. Maybe the war. Do it. Coordinate with the Concordiate fleet. We'll need every gun we've got for this. As the AI acknowledged the order, Elena opened a channel to the entire human fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Reeves. We're about to throw everything we've got at the enemy. The Gatling network will fire, then go offline. In that moment, we charge every ship, every fighter, everything we've got. We end this now. Across the solar system, human and Concordiate ships moved into position. The Gatling platforms began to spin up, their massive barrels glowing with building energy. The swarm superstructure, sensing the impending attack, began to charge its own weapon. It was going to be a race to see who could fire first. Admiral, Chen called out, her voice tense. The swarm weapon is at 80% charge. Our Gatling network is at 95%. Elena gripped the arms of her chair. Hold steady. Wait for it. The seconds ticked by, feeling like an eternity. The swarm weapon reached 90%, then 95%. Now, Elena shouted. In that instant, every Gatling platform in the solar system fired. Streams of hyper-accelerated matter converged on the swarm superstructure from all directions. At the same moment, the Concordiate fleet unleashed a barrage of their quantum-entangled weapons. The combined firepower struck the swarm superstructure just as it was about to fire. The resulting explosion was like nothing Elena had ever seen. It was as if a new sun had been born in the heart of the solar system. When the glare faded, the tactical display showed empty space where the swarm superstructure had been. For a moment, there was silence on the bridge. Then, Chen's voice, filled with awe. We did it. It's gone. But Elena knew the battle wasn't over yet. All ships, advance. Take out the remaining swarm forces while they're disorganized. The human and Concordiate fleets surged forward. Without their central controller, The remaining swarm ships fought erratically, their once coordinated movements now chaotic and predictable. Hour by hour, the Allied forces pushed the swarm back. Elena coordinated the attack from the Thunderbolt, using every trick and tactic she had ever learned. The Concordiate ships moved in perfect synchronization with their human allies, their combined firepower overwhelming the diminishing swarm forces. As the last of the swarm ships were cornered near the orbit of Neptune, Elena allowed herself to believe that victory might actually be within reach. But as she prepared to order the final assault, a strange energy reading caught her attention. "Chen, what am I looking at?" she asked, pointing to a fluctuating signal near the largest remaining swarm ship. Chen's fingers flew over her console. It's some kind of transmission, Admiral. But I've never seen anything like it. It's not directed at any of the other swarm ships. It's aimed out, beyond the solar system." A chill ran down Elena's spine as the implications hit her. This wasn't just a battle. It was a test. And somewhere out there, the main body of the swarm was waiting to see the results. As she gave the order for the final attack, Elena knew that this victory, hard-fought as it was just the beginning. Humanity and its new allies had proven themselves on the galactic stage. But the real war, the war for the very future of life in the universe, was just beginning. The Gatling gun, that simple idea born centuries ago on Earth, had evolved into a weapon that could shake the foundations of space itself. And now it would be the vanguard of humanity's march to the stars. As the last swarm ship exploded in a brilliant flash, Elena looked out at the vast expanse of space beyond Neptune. Whatever was coming, whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain: humanity was ready. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, more united, and with allies they never could have imagined. The battle was over. The war for the galaxy was about to begin. Victory and aftermath. The solar system, once a battlefield of unimaginable proportions, had fallen into an uneasy quiet. The debris of countless swarm ships drifted silently through space, a testament to the ferocity of the conflict that had just concluded. On Earth, and across the colonies of Mars and the outer moons, billions of humans emerged from their shelters, looking to the stars with a mixture of relief, pride, and trepidation. Admiral Elena Reeves stood in the newly constructed Hall of Unity on Luna, Earth's moon. The cavernous chamber was filled with representatives from every nation on Earth, delegates from the colonies, and a contingent of Concordiate diplomats. The air buzzed with tension and excitement as they awaited the start of the most important conference in human history. As Elena took her place at the podium, she couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them to this point. The terrifying first encounter with the swarm, the desperate race to upgrade their defenses, the mind-bending alliance with the Concordiate, and the final climactic battle that had seen humanity emerge victorious against all odds. Distinguished delegates, honored guests, Elena began, her voice carrying across the hushed chamber. We stand here today, not just as survivors, but as victors. The swarm, an enemy that has laid waste to countless civilizations across the galaxy, has been driven from our solar system. A round of applause erupted, quickly dying down as Elena raised her hand. But our victory, hard-fought as it was, is not the end of our struggle. It is merely the beginning. She gestured to a holographic display that sprang to life behind her, showing the vast expanse of the Milky Way. The transmission we intercepted at the end of the battle confirms what our Concordiate allies have long suspected. The swarm we faced was but a fraction of their total force. Even now, the main body of the swarm is moving through the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. A murmur of concern rippled through the audience. But where others might see cause for despair, I see opportunity, Elena continued, her voice growing stronger. We have proven that the swarm can be beaten. Our Gatling technology, combined with Concordiate quantum sciences, has given us a weapon capable of challenging even the mightiest of foes. She turned to the Concordiate representatives, their alien features impassive but their eyes gleaming with what Alina had learned to recognize as respect. Our alliance, forged in the heat of battle, has shown us that we are stronger together than we could ever be apart. The Concordiat has offered us full membership in their intergalactic community and access to technologies beyond our wildest dreams. Another round of applause, this time mixed with excited chatter. But this gift comes with a responsibility. Alina pressed on. The swarm threatens not just us, not just the Concordiat, but all life in the galaxy. We have the power to make a difference, to save countless worlds from the fate we so narrowly avoided. She paused, letting her words sink in. I stand before you today to propose the formation of a new entity, the Terran Defense Force, a fleet of ships equipped with our most advanced Gatling technology, crewed by the best and brightest Earth has to offer, ready to stand alongside our Concordiat allies in defense of the galaxy. The chamber erupted in a mix of cheers and heated discussion. Alina waited for the noise to die down before continuing. I know what I'm proposing is unprecedented. Never before has humanity united on such a scale. Never before have we reached so far beyond our own world. But the universe we knew has changed. We are no longer alone, and we can no longer afford to think only of our own planet, our own system. She gestured to the holographic galaxy again, this time highlighting dozens of worlds scattered across its spiral arms. These are the worlds we know to be in the swarm's path, worlds filled with beings who, like us, hope and dream and fear. Worlds that, without our help, will fall to the same enemy we've just defeated. Alina's voice softened, filled with conviction. We have always looked to the stars and wondered if we were alone. Now we know the answer, and it comes with a choice. Do we turn inward, content with our victory here? Or do we reach out, extend the hand of friendship to those who, like the Concordiat, would stand with us against the darkness? She straightened, her gaze sweeping across the assembled delegates. I say we go forth. I say we take the best of what makes us human, our creativity, our determination, our capacity for both war and peace, and we use it to make a difference on a cosmic scale. The chamber was silent now, every eye fixed on Alina. The Gatling gun, a weapon born on Earth centuries ago, has evolved into something that can shake the foundations of space itself. But it's not the weapon that will save us. It's the spirit behind it. The human spirit that takes an idea and reimagines it, that faces impossible odds and finds a way to overcome them. Alina's voice rose to a crescendo. That is what we offer the galaxy. Not just our weapons, but our will, our hope, our humanity. As she finished speaking, the Hall of Unity erupted in a standing ovation. Humans and Concordiat alike rose to their feet, their cheers echoing through the chamber. In the days that followed, the details of the Terran Defense Force were hammered out. Ships were commissioned, crews were selected, and humanity began its first tentative steps onto the galactic stage. As Alina watched the first TDF ships launch from Earth's orbit, sleek vessels bristling with advanced Gatling turrets and shimmering with Concordiat energy fields, she felt a profound sense of pride and purpose. The swarm was still out there, a threat to all life in the galaxy, but they would face a united front. The ingenuity of humanity combined with the ancient wisdom of the Concordia, and who knew how many other alien races they had yet to meet. As the ships disappeared into the depths of space, Alina smiled. The Gatling gun had come a long way from its humble beginnings on Earth, and so had humanity. Together, they were about to write a new chapter in the history of the galaxy. The battle for Earth was over. The war for the stars had just begun. And humanity, armed with its evolved Gatling technology and indomitable spirit, was ready to meet whatever challenges the universe had in store. The future, vast and unknown, beckoned, and humanity, for the first time in its long history, was truly ready to answer its call.